We're live, and you are back from doing your Beach Boys video.
I am back from doing my Aruba vacation with 9.5 toes.
Oh, was there a situation?
It was a slight situation on the beach, Doug, and I blame my wife for it.
Crab?
There was one day I was sober,
Oh,
and I was walking on the beach, and like when you're on the beach, the sand can be really soft, so you shuffle your feet.
yep.
So I was shuffling my feet. Guess what my left foot big toe found?
Crab?
A rock.
Oh,
A
okay.
big rock. So
I'm kind of going with like the crab with the claw, just taking
No,
snip.
There was a really big iguana swimming with us.
Oh, okay.
I think he was trying to steal my wife because he kept swimming under our raft. But no, broke my big toe.
Okay.
It was bright purple for like 3 days.
See, we got Candy in the chat already. We got Derek Barrett. Derek, tell me, for your cornhole stuff today, were you having wings, or did you go for a big feed of dicks? The question. It's an East Coast thing. It's an East Coast thing. You can go. There was a big tournament at Winging It in Bay Roberts. Then over in Bell Island at Dick's Fish and Chips, there was a big tournament as well there.
Is he home already? I know he was traveling a little bit.
Yeah, he's in Alberta. He was at neither.
Well, you want to hear a funny story? Funny story. He wanted some of the greatest bags in the whole wide world.
Yes. Yeah.
Got the greatest bags in the whole wide world. And he's 1,000 miles away.
Yes. But yeah, so the I want to see. I hope I'm not getting this wrong. Alan Noseworthy from Bell Island took everyone over there. He had give them a big fee. He owns Dick's Fish and Chips. They had a food truck at the Open in St. John's. So get there. So I haven't been able to go to the store yet for the Dick's Fish and Chips, right? But when I've been in Cape Breton, and if you ever took the ferry across Newfoundland, and I went with you, we could then stop in Bredor in Cape Breton on the way to the ferry, and we can have we can go to Lick a Chick.
All right. First of all, I'm very upset.
It's a chicken place.
I'm very, very upset.
Okay.
Because I'm wearing my ACL Canada today.
Oh.
But they screwed me. They completely screwed me, Doug.
Okay.
The one tournament I'm looking forward to, I won't be able to go to.
Actually, no, we'll talk about that. I had the date wrong.
Oh, seriously, you're giving me like agita over here. All right,
it's a little inside baseball, folks. We got we know some stuff ahead of time, but it's yep.
Listen, if you need
crisis averted.
Listen, if you need me to, I can talk to Uncle Stacy out at Spencer's and get some shit moved around if you need me to.
Well, no, we got everything. Everything is under control here. Yeah. Everything is under control.
It better be under control because I don't have to. I got to renew my passport because my passport runs out in February, so I got to get it all wound back up again so I can make it back up that way.
Yes.
They also had 50, I think, at Winging It.
For the another. Yep.
Cool.
Yes, that was the tournament today at Winging It.
So is it like right in the parking lot or?
Yeah, right up front.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
So how many Winging It's are there? Is there one like main location or are they franchised yet? Is it a chain?
They are franchised.
Okay.
Let me see if I can pick up the franchises here yet. I know there is one in Airdrie, Alberta. It seemed to come everywhere we went for an Open this year. There was a Winging It.
Well, because I see on my Facebook feed that comes up that find a friend feature.
Yep.
There is one gentleman, I see his back, that says he's like Captain Winging It. Let me see if I can find him. Hold on. 50-something stores, I believe, says Mr. Barrett. But he always shows up in my Find a Friend feed.
Okay.
Let me see what his name is.
Glenn McFarland?
What's that?
Glenn McFarland?
I think it is Glenn McFarland.
Yeah.
Yes, I think he's the one that comes up all the time.
That would be the owner.
Okay. Yeah, because it comes up on his back. He's got the wing in it, like a NASCAR shirt on.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to add him as a friend right now. Yep.
Fantastic guy.
He made one new friend last week, and he's going to make one new friend this week. It says he made friends with the first two guys that come up are kind of suspect here, though.
Barrett and Spencer?
Barrett and you.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
Spencer's third, Cowan's fourth, Kuz is fifth, and Ronald Hackett is sixth. It's like the who's who of a poster on the Canadian Post Office.
Yes. Well, yeah. Sure. So, other than the 9.5 toes, you everything was. Other than that, cornhole was fine in Aruba.
So it was an amazing, epic cornhole adventure down there. We did have to play on, those like aluminum boards that fold in half.
Yes.
That's the boards they had.
Okay.
So I brought 2 sets of bags with me. I brought a set of Tyrants and a set of Prowlers. They are the Beast Edition. And I was playing with those, and the boards were not good. Last year we had good boards, bad bags. This year we had amazing bags, bad boards. But we did set a little tournament up there. It was me and one of the VPs of distribution for dealer sales for my wife's company, and versus the CEO and the senior vice president of the company. So it was cute. We were up 11-0, and I just started throwing airmails just to be a jerk. And we let them come back. We got it to 18-11, and then we ended the game. We smoked them 3 games in a row. We were the champions. I mean, wasn't even close. And then after we won, the guy that I was playing with, he's like, "Thank you for letting me beat them because it gives me something to make fun of them for another whole year."
Yeah, well, that kind of happens.
I'm not that good, but when I started throwing on the boards, nobody else would play. So I would have been an automatic winner no matter what. So he's like, "You can actually hit the board. We don't want to play."
Yeah, well, at least you can hit the board. I was having a little tough time on Thursday night, but if anyone wants to go and check out on the Facebook page, Marty Van Lannen, he hit like the third or fourth time the airmail challenge.
He is
for Canada revenue. I'm not going to say what dollar amount he's now up to.
2 loony.
He's probably made more than some other top pros.
So the one thing that I've never seen with a pipe is somebody to leave it hanging on the pipe.
Yeah.
And I love that where you guys play, you don't pull it, because I've seen a lot of places around the country that if they put it on top of the box or it's even, hanging in any way, they pull it off. I think that's fair game. That's still a live shot in cornhole. So I think it's perfect that he threw an amazing airmail drag. The last 2 bags kind of sucked, but
only the first one of the last 2 counted because you only get 3 bags.
Yeah, it's okay. The last 2 sucked. I'll just let him know that. But
actually, his last 3, his last 5, I guess, sucked because his name got pulled again.
No, but I'm saving the one that he hit.
Yeah,
which is really good. I mean, that was a really good throw. But I love that you guys leave it hanging because that bag's in play. You should be able to drag that in there.
Yep. So I see that we do have our guest is here. I will welcome in Mr. Price Atkinson. Price, how you doing?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Not too. I gotta say, you and I have talked before about you coming on, and because you're like one of the OG, like people who've like been following the show. So I gotta thank you for that. Like it's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to finally talk to you, Doug. Here, and yeah, I remember when. I think about the time you launched this show, was it around COVID, right after COVID? I mean, cornhole got me through COVID. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, especially when it came on TV, but just getting outside, throwing some bags just to literally get a breath of fresh air, because that's all we needed at the time was a breath of fresh air. But yeah, you were, speaking of OGs, Doug Coombs is, I mean, Doug, you were one of the OGs when it comes to Cornhole podcast, man. So it's great to catch up with both you guys.
Well, congratulations for being one of the three.
I definitely would not be considered in that OG category. I was just happy to hang. I'm happy to hang with one tonight and you guys.
No, I'm just saying one of the three people that we're actually listening to him.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got yeah. Well, you got to start somewhere, right?
Oh, exactly. And Donnie's now gonna kind of suck up to you because he's seen where you're from, and he's like, that's where I want to go and live.
That's where I want to move to. I want to be down in that area.
So where are you at, Donnie?
I am just outside of Boston. I live in Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So
yep.
I literally grew up in the city and then moved out of the city.
Okay. I've got relatives up in Peabody, West Peabody. My mother-in-law grew up in Sudbury, was born and raised there. So
I work in Linfield, so I'm right around the corner.
Okay. I got you, my man. I got you. Yeah.
See, we're like family already.
Yeah, exactly. Cornhole family, Olympic family. This is awesome, man. So, it's good to see another American or have another American with me tonight too. Sometimes I feel like an outcast when I would make my golly. I guess it was right before COVID. I think I was in Canada 9-10 times that year, right before the halt. So, definitely love that part of the world and getting up to Canada. It's just been a while, Doug. I hate that COVID changed the whole game.
Yeah, and I've got to get down to your area because I do have some friends that are in Greenville that I usually hang out with down in Charlotte at the race. So I haven't got a chance to get down to see them. So I've got to get down to them as well.
Yeah, I won't make you jealous. My son, who's a Boy Scout, I believe their upcoming camping trip is going to be to Darlington. I'm not a big race fan. Okay, let me just go ahead and put that out there. But they're taking our scout troop down to, I think it's I'm pretty sure it's Darlington. I don't know the name of the race down there, but I think they're going to stay maybe at the end. I might have this wrong.
Yeah.
I think they were supposed to be staying or camping somewhere on site at the racetrack, but I know they're going to it one day. I think Sunday.
A lot of those places will do like scout troops in the infield, so they will let them, kind of come in there and pitch tents and do everything else. Just because, some of the infield is actually paved, but some of it has the grass where they'll let them use that right away. So, it all depends. But how can you be from where you are and not be a NASCAR fan?
I'm not. I have never. I've been to a lot of sports. I appreciate all kinds of sports, especially with the Olympics going on. I think the greatest sporting event, bar none, in the world. But NASCAR is just one that I can't do. I can do some pro wrestling. I can do some other things, but I can't do NASCAR.
Well, they start doing the cornhole tournaments at most of the races now with the ACL. So it's,
which is great marketing. I mean, it's definitely smart if you ask me on the ACL side of things. But just when it comes to, I can't watch cars go around for 5 hours. I just can't do it. Having gone to school in Kentucky, being a University of Kentucky graduate, I prefer to watch the horses just do that one lap thing versus the 50. So I'm good on that 2 minutes.
Listen, the moving trucks will be outside the house tomorrow. Start packing you up, moving you out the Mason-Dixon.
Yeah, don't tell my southern brethren and neighbors around here that I don't like NASCAR.
Oh my goodness. Well, you don't say you don't like it. You just say I just have other hobbies. So you never say you don't like it.
Maybe in the spirit of Paris, it's not my cup of tea.
Well, so that and even when I first started talking about this, though, we'll think about this as a subject to have on, and then seeing your post about with Beijing. Was like yesterday morning on like the NASCAR channel when I'm on my way to work. They're talking about having auto racing in the Olympics, and it's like, well, we've been having this here conversation for cornhole in the Olympics for a little bit, and I know pickleball is starting to kind of wind to go in, and I know there's really no openings until I believe I heard 2036 for any other new sports coming in. But seeing you with curling and your experience in Beijing there. Because curling and cornhole are they're pretty similar in kind of things. I know curling had to go through a lot of changes to get where they're at to be with the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean it was in many years ago. Then it was a test event. Golly, what was it? Was it in Hagano? I can't remember. But then golly, what was it? It was 98. It came back, and then Salt Lake City, I think, was the second full year in 2002. And really Torino is when it really kind of caught fire and went wild in 2006. But it's not so much. I don't think that curling had to change the sport. Sure, there were some things that needed to be done a little bit differently, but I think one of the biggest things is that when you get to that level, the Olympic level, and you're competing against, the best of the best in the world, whatever your given sport is, you end up, it kind of takes on a life of its own where, curlers were, a once seen kind of, and I'll stereotype a little bit here, but, they were seen as the guys that would be at the bar late at night.
Yep.
And, after they get finished, at a Bonspiel or a game, go sit and have a few pints. They might be the overweight, I got a kick out of it when Schuster's team won the gold medal in 2018 in Pyeongchang. I was doing all their social media for them, and we got so many comments about, the dad bods,
Yeah.
But the truth is those guys really worked on their fitness, and it had really begun changing before that. And these guys now aren't those, fat, old beer drinking guys. You're getting money from, your national, sometimes your government, but the national government body is funding, these athletes to go and perform on the world stage. You don't exactly want to go see a guy that's walking out with a 24 pack, a gut, trying to go, get it done. Yeah, exactly. Cheers to you, Donnie. So, the sport, changed. It's revolutionized with the brooms and a lot of other things. And that's more than you guys want to get into. But yeah, I know as we talk cornhole, there's a lot of things that will have to change there.
Well, and that's hard too, because, you hear all these stories too, coming out of the Olympic Village, right?
Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. Where it gets a little wild, it gets a little crazy,
Sure.
But, you're still there to perform at the same time. Right. So it takes a lot of work to get there. So, sometimes you want to let loose a little bit while you're there.
I think one of my favorite, and I probably shouldn't even tell this story, and this wasn't one that I was at, but I can't remember the Olympic Games it was at, but it was one of maybe the first one back where they were letting the pro hockey guys come and play. And golly, it could have been, I don't think it was Sochi. It had to have been before Sochi. It may have been, it may have been Torino. But Chris Chelios, if you remember the former Blackhawk, I remember hearing a story about after they were done. I think they may have even won the gold. I don't remember where. I don't remember. The competition was over, and I remember hearing a story about him one night going back to the Olympic Village and heading back into the the Team USA house or the Team USA wing of it. And he was so hammered that they literally put him, passed out hammered, had to put him on the security belt and put him through security that way because the guy could not stand up because he had so much fun. Yes, I've heard a lot more stories like that, but especially as, the athletes start finishing up, the competition and, they let loose a little bit because, the pressure, clearly that pressure that they're under, for usually a 4-year cycle. A lot of times that pressure is built up from even years before that, just, because they build for those moments. And so, they definitely like to let loose and have some fun. I can attest to that.
So curling was an exhibition sport in 1932 and then got brought back in 1998 in the games in Nagano.
That's it. Yep. That sounds exactly right. Yep. And, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to make those kind of things happen. You don't just get to be an Olympic sport. There are a lot of, and I'm not going to, be the authoritarian on how you do it, but let's just say there are a lot of steps that it takes. And, politicking and being good with people behind the scenes definitely helps. Having a international federation, a governing body, that's one of the biggest things. That's one of the starting points is you have to have a international governing federation that's going to, be able to, set the rules, govern those kind of things. And, one of the other big things too is, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's got to be played, I believe, for the to even be considered, it's got to be a sport that's played on 4 continents. If it's a men's sport, 75 different countries or something like that. It's basically the moral of the story is it can't just be played a sport that's played in like a couple areas. It's got to be a sport that is global, if you will, in many different places. And clearly curling is not abundant in Africa. Now they do have a Nigerian curling team now and some others that are trying to get ice, but all across Europe, of course, Canada, North America, Asia, curling's huge, but that's going to be one of the challenges of cornhole is just growing the sport, in global places. I know it's, there's interest in those places, but in Asia, in Africa, that's just some of the steps that are going to have to take place. And there's a whole lot more to it when it comes to the Olympic Charter.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, if you look at curling too, I mean, even before it got into the Olympics, there was, it's a sanctioned sport, right? They kind of, you play it the same way everywhere. You might not have access to the equipment, because those curling stones are not cheap.
Yeah, no, they're not. And they're incredibly expensive, usually running, anywhere from starting at 10,000 for a set, of rocks, obviously, both colors, but, that is, I love cornhole. I love playing it. And I think one of the things that right now in curling, trying to grow, our sport, I guess, for lack of a better term, is, finding different access points, because, we look at, curling, we look at the traditional, 4-person team curling 10 ends, and then mixed doubles came along. So you had one male, one female, and it's a shorter game. It's less rocks, but it's more palatable. It's more exciting for television. It goes quicker. That was a big step, I think, to help partially grow curling. One of the other, big things now is, the World Curling Federation, who I work for Bo Welling, the president of World Curling, at Bo Welling Design now. One of the big initiatives with World Curling is, floor curling. Now, it's not easy to put a sheet of ice. Really, it doesn't really matter where you are, unless you're way up in the northern part of Saskatchewan, places in Alberta in the wintertime where you can put ice, you just walk out on ice. But, places like India or, Africa, South America, and you just can't do that. And so floor curling is kind of a gateway, is what we kind of think about it. It's a different access point to give people, a chance to at least get a taste of the sport, to kind of understand it a little bit, and it's like Bo talks, about a lot these days. And, golf, it kind of had a little bit of a renaissance, and it still is, a lot of people coming back to the game of golf, that got away before COVID. And then obviously COVID hit, and, you got people out that are wanting to get outside, go swing the sticks again, that just hadn't done it in a long time. But one of the big things that has changed with golf and an access point is Topgolf, something I'm sure you guys have all seen or familiar. Sure, it's not going out playing 18 holes. It's not even going to play a lighted short course, that might be 12 holes that you could play at 9:30 at night, but it still gives people a taste, and it's kind of that gateway to the sport that, that the purists may not like it, much like the curling purists may not like floor curling, but those are the kind of things that are important to help grow the sport, especially in different areas.
Yeah, because if you look around me, Topgolf just made a huge acquisition here around me in Boston, because we don't have a Topgolf, but they acquired some space in one of the greatest baseball venues. They are doing Topgolf at Fenway.
See, those are the kind of things. That's exactly, the kind of things that you got to think outside of the box in a lot of ways, nowadays. And whether that's, playing a cornhole tournament at the 50-yard line at halftime of a Auburn, Alabama football game. I'm literally throwing out some crazy. But those are the kind of things that, at least, in the curling world, and as I've watched cornhole, grow and blossom, going up to world championships, every, couple of years. Hopefully I'll be able to get up there in a couple of weeks or in a week or so. But, just to watch the growth of the game. And I do applaud the ACL for trying a lot of different things. I know there are a lot of shortcomings that people would say, maybe a lot of faults they have, but I think that they're trying a lot of different things. And I think what they're trying is working, because I just continually see it more on television, and you see more people, playing. I'm not saying you see people, playing it like in your, driveway, like you might see, a dad and son throwing a lacrosse ball, or, maybe out in Coronado Island, a couple kids throwing a water polo ball in their front yard. But you definitely see the growth of the game and trying new things. And I think that's vitally important.
Now,
I think for that as well too, with the whole change in the whole, the 10-round limited games, to try and kind of get that a little better for TV, that could kind of work well with the Olympics, and just to kind of go back a little bit when we were talking about like the curling and all the kind of the beer bellies and all their sort of stuff. I know Canada went through that here with curling to really kind of clean that up and said, you know what, we kind of got to get our stuff together here, and I think. Oh, I'm not. ACLs kind of did that, and a lot of places still are trying to get that. And I've cringed when I see a couple of people that when they're doing like media stuff, it's like they're talking about, oh, we're here for the beer, we're here for this here. No, if we want to be legitimate, we've got to kind of clean all that stuff up, even to go to the one step further with the drug testing that the ACL kind of talked about at the start of this year. If we want to if you want to be in the Olympics. You got to really kind of look at that strongly.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's, you want to be in the Olympics, then you're talking about getting World Anti-Doping Agency involved. And and that's where having an international federation and having an ACL is great, but it might end up being something bigger. And I think it likely would be something bigger than the ACL. It'd have to be something.
Well, we do have the WCO now as well, right?
Yeah.
We got that second event coming up here in Germany. So.
Yeah. So you got to take it more seriously. And, I'm not going to get on a soapbox here because I know when and where to stay in my lane. Right, guys. But, and I'm not talking NASCAR lane because I don't know those lanes clearly, but, I know that especially when it comes to cornhole, and something I've long is a PR and communications guy, and, what I do for a living. I've really strongly believed, and I've whispered to a couple people around there that I wish, media training and some of those things with the athletes would be really prioritized, because, they are, the salesmen in a lot of ways for the game, for cornhole. And so when you put them on television, whether it's for a commercial or whether it's an in-game, between, an intermission, interview on ESPN, or whether it's right after they won, world championship in Rock Hill, having these people to, and the athletes to really articulate, speak well, talk to the camera, put the beer down, put that cup down, whatever it is. Those things are just really, really important, those optics. And some people will say, well, why does that matter? Well, it does matter, because, when the random person turns on, a cornhole event, and, they hear a guy giving a one-word answer, one-word answers after a game when Jeff, McCarriger and Trey are trying to pull something out of them. And, they have relationships with those guys now. But when it was first coming on television, and you were seeing these interviews, whether it be Trini Kisnerick that was doing, or I think it was Stormy when she was on, you were getting these very brief, simple answers. I'm like, golly, I could use a little bit more as a viewer. But I think they're getting a little bit further down the road on those things, because, a lot of these players have been around for a little while. Relationships have been developed with a lot of the on-air folks and talent. So they feel a little bit more comfortable opening up. But I think that that's something that it really should be prioritized, if you will, is helping the athletes be the better salesmen and marketing folks for your product.
Well, I think when you really look at that price, you look at it this year, I think this year it was impacted more than any other year, right? Because we did have the big COVID spike where, the game kind of hockey stick straight up, right? Mm-hmm. Like you saw a lot of companies coming out of the woodwork. You saw a lot of companies with, double-digit, triple-digit comps, all this other stuff. But this year, now that it's kind of settling off and there's a lot of competition out there for sponsorships, we saw a lot of big names drop out of the game because they couldn't secure that, that minimal amount of money to be able to travel. Like I know, 3-4 years ago, it was about $25,000 was kind of the price of entry to travel.
Yeah.
Today, it's gone up a bit because of, flights and everything else. But, you look at some of these big names that had to drop out, and I'm not saying they didn't have the training, but I think the one sport that really nails it is NASCAR, really. And I know you don't do a lot with NASCAR, but they're the guys that sit there and put on the 6, 7, 8 different hats. And really, the first thing they do when they get out of the car, I like to thank the Tide Chevrolet for, getting me through because they know what's going on. Like Tiger, every time Tiger Woods won or was even on TV, talked about Nike, right? And it comes down to they need those 3 or 4 different sound bites. So not just sounding intelligent, but also just getting that name out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think in this, I know probably open another can of worms, but I really wish the ACL would allow players not, the limit on the sponsorships that, what do they get, 4, I believe, on their jerseys. It may be more than that.
Yeah, I just can't remember.
Once it was 4, but they were basically limited. Those were the spots they got, and that's it. I really wish they would be able to allow the players, to go, number one, find a lot more. And I know that they can, but how are you going to sell like a 5th and 6th sponsor after you've already got your jerseys? And I mean, where are you going to put them? I guess you can do some of the social media stuff, but that's not going to do it. I really wish players could have the ability to change out jerseys through the season if they're adding sponsors and doing well, instead of having these cookie cutter ACL jerseys that all look the same. I understand the brand from a branding standpoint, but I think if you're going to look at the players who are helping, your game survive, I think there should be a lot more for and about the players.
Well, if you look at the NASCAR model, right? NASCAR has a group of sponsors, right? That group of sponsors is small on the side of the car.
Right. Yep.
And your premier sponsor, the person that's paying the bills for the season, is the marquee sponsor, right? They're the one on the hood. They're not on the quarter panel. They're on the hood because that's what's going to be seen. When you really look at a cornhole player, it's that chess piece, right? Yep. You want your name there, and you want your premier sponsor right there. Yep. Listen, I love what, Bush has done for the game. I love what Johnsonville's done for the game. All the other big marquee sponsors. But if Titan Bags is paying my bills for the season, I want them front and center. I want them to be the biggest logo that everybody sees, because that's the first person I'm thanking when I get on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me take it another direction too. Is one of my, as a PR, marketing, social media, one of the things that just drives me crazy. And I know players have to do it, and it's kind of cut into what you're talking about. But when they would do a social media post, let's just take Facebook for instance. They would do a Facebook post, let's say Monday or Tuesday, right after a tournament over the weekend, and it would be, oh, here's my weekend recap, and it would be this long. I got to okay. I don't want that. And then at the end, thanking and tagging their sponsors. That to me is the worst thing to do. And I know it's the easy thing to do. But when I was working with curling teams, a lot of the elite level curling teams, whether it be in Canada, even Schuster's team still here in the U.S., or some of the European teams from Sweden and Scotland that I work with, we tried to integrate our sponsors with different social media content that wasn't just simply the bag and tag. You put it up there and you tag them, bam, it's gone. We tried to do some different things, whether it be a fun video, or whether it be, I don't want to say TikTok-ish, but, something that was just it wasn't the typical, okay, here's my weekend recap. Here's how I did, tag the sponsors, and bam, I'm out. That doesn't do anything. That's not helping. That's scratching, that's checking a box. I think players need to be thinking a lot more innovatively in terms of extending the brand in ways that they are, taking their current sponsor's brand further than what they're doing right now, whether it be a bag company, whether it be Joe Schmo's bar down at the corner that I go play at on Tuesday night in the league, when I'm home, those kind of things.
Yeah, and even for we talk about the NASCAR thing, and I've been in victory lane with NASCAR to see that the cornhole players, for at the end of these games, they need to have some sort of handler with them, that behind the camera they need that sign that reads off every one of their sponsors, because that's what the NASCAR people have standing behind. There's like this thing where they don't have all 18 sponsors in their head all the time. They're reading off that card, and I think we need to start having that, because how many times have you seen, or even I've even done it myself sometimes, where you just blank out of who a sponsor is to thank, and then they're like, oh well, I hope I didn't forget anybody. Well, we need to start having those handlers there to have that info for them.
I totally agree, and I think handler, PR person, agent, whoever it is, but that person that's going to help them, brand build. And it can be any of those things, but I'll take it, somebody that's working with them, trying to get them. And again, this isn't going to be the media relations team at the ACL, because they're looking out big picture. But this is going to be somebody that's going to be looking out for, let me just take Jay Rubin, for example, trying to get him on a local Chicago talk radio station, or trying to get him on like a local morning TV show to throw some bags. And, oh yeah, here, I'm going to wear my sponsored, jersey, or not even this case, forget the ACL jersey. I'm going to wear, a Titan, a Titan bags, sweatshirt, because they're my bag sponsor. That's the stuff that, and then you can obviously articulate it verbally, but then you're doing a 7-minute, 8-minute segment where you're showing, the brand.
Well,
and
go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say that I've even seen some stuff on where the players have been on these other morning shows, any other kind of talk shows, and with the when you talk about the training of it, they're talking about something that they're doing, and they're not even saying the right name of the event that they're at.
Absolutely,
right. Exactly. That's so important to have that, because then because then someone's going to look at that event and that's not even going on.
Well, but I used to work for a small little company called Circuit City before it went under.
Yeah.
And the one thing that when we were trying to rebuild the company was everybody had to have a 30-second elevator speech as to how they were going to impact, the change in the organization and what they were going to do. And I think if they could do some sort of training, whether it's an agent or whether it's the ACL doing it, but each player needs to have that 30-second elevator speech, right? Because you're getting a sound clip. You're not getting a 20-minute interview at the end of a match. It's, listen, I'd like to thank this person, this person, this person. Hit your main sponsors, hit kind of the big things, because you don't get the opportunity to have that big sponsor there, right? You get the pictures afterwards and you can post it, but and I'm not saying anything against the ACL, but they're the organizing brand, right? So they're gonna push who they are.
Yeah.
We as individuals and as people trying to move the game forward, because I'm not going to say grow the game, we are the ones that have to help these people move forward, whether it's through PR organizations, through the manufacturers, through whoever it is, to help them continue to not only push the brand they are, but make themselves a brand.
Yes, exactly. And so another example I'd throw out there is, again, let's go back to the morning show, hit in whatever local area, player X is, finishing up the interview. Don't be afraid to turn to that camera and say, and it especially if it's something fairly local to the event that's coming up, well, we're going to be here in Philadelphia this next weekend or in 2 weekends. Well, what if the event, okay, I get that Philadelphia is a big area, but we're going to be in Westchester. We're going to be in King of Prussia playing at the X so-and-so Xfinity Center. Come out. I would love to meet you. If you're in the area, come out and check out the sport. Would love to see you. Come by and find me. Say, hey, if you see me walking around, because that's another thing that I think is fantastic about cornhole is the game is just, and the players are so accessible. When you go to a tournament, you go to World Championships up the road in Rock Hill, an hour and 20 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. And you walk in, to the Rock Hill Sports and Events Center. And, I remember the first time I walked in, I'm like, golly, there's Chucky Love. And by the end, before I left that night, I ended up throwing a set of bags with him on a court. It was 9:30, 10 o'clock at night before I left to drive back here to the upstate. And he threw, and I saw him, and he was just kind of standing around. I went up and introduced myself to him and told him, I was like, yeah, I'm trying to get better. You got any tips? And so he's like, come on, let's go over. And we walked out onto a board and, tossed some Reynolds bags. And it was awesome. And so I think that's one of the things that is, and that's a big similarity to curling is, the players are out there on the ice, but like after the game, they're in the warm room. They're going to probably sit and have a meal. They love for fans to come out and introduce themselves. And I think that's a great thing about cornhole is having more people, that you might see it from, whether it be an article in the newspaper, hear a radio interview. I might go check that out. That sounds pretty fun. Or see it on the TV, and you go, and then you make those personal connections when you meet, a Chucky Love or a Jay Rubin or somebody like that. And then that's when you start developing those connections and fans and more people. And then they go and tell their buddy, oh, man, you know what we did this weekend? We went to the cornhole tournament. ACL was here. I met this dude, man. He was so fun. And we got to hang out with him and sit right behind his board and cheer him on. It was awesome. Those are the things when you start really not growing the game. I'm not going to do it, Donnie. Expand the game. I'm telling you, those are the things that make the difference.
Yeah.
Well, going back to seeing a comment here from Al Castro, saying that every player doesn't have their own camera crew walking around with them. Yeah, but when I'm talking about having that sign, that's just for when they're on the broadcast and after a game. But every player has one of these.
Exactly. Every player has a phone, and 90% of the players I see going live all the time. So if you're going live, built into a certain fruit company phone, there's a little piece of software you can.
I'm waiting for 15 to get supposed to be here any minute.
Listen, I have no way to fix that for you. But you can do clips, right? You can take a clip from what you did and you can make a reel and you can put that stuff out there. So you don't need a professional camera crew. Most of the phones and other things that you have in your pocket are going to do that for you. We're not saying you need, an 8K shoot with 6 cameras. No. We're just saying you need to market a little more personally before you get there. And the other thing, yes, a lot of you are new, Derek, to the game, and you've only been doing it for 2 years. And that's why we're bringing this up, because this game went from, 1X to 2X. Right now we're about 10X when you start looking at it, and it's going to grow so fast that it's going to potentially start to outpace some players, right? You look at disc golf. You look at some of these other sports that just exploded. It left a lot of people behind because they weren't doing these little things that we were talking about, and they missed out on some sponsors where some players that probably weren't as good as them got the sponsorships because they were doing some work. They were putting themselves out there, and now those players have a team behind them because those sponsors are now paying for it instead of that person, kind of doing that dirty work in the beginning. It's gonna help a little bit today to get you what you really want tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about a guy being thrown in the fire. Paul Vanendam here is saying that this is very new for him. He did a radio interview. This would have been great educating on how to handle this here. Paul, I'm gonna ask you in the chat. I think you've been playing for around a year, I believe, and he's part of Team Canada for the WCO going to Trier, Germany. He qualified through there. So, it's. We talk about that. It's crucial, I think, for these new players, because I know I've had Eric Charney on a bunch of times, and that was his job when he worked for Upper Deck, was working with the new NFL and the NBA players. That maybe it's a thing for the ACL to do for new pros and even for some of the older pros.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, whether it's a workshop, that all the new pros that become new pros to start the year, they go through. It might be a weekend somewhere, and it's almost like a crash course on how to be a pro. The things you need to do to be a pro. All right, you've done the hard things. Okay, you've gone through qualifying. And the pressure of, at Worlds and trying to qualify that way. Or now let's do the other little things that are what makes a pro a real pro. And it's the marketing, it's the media relations stuff, it's the, how to go out and maybe, sell, more sponsors, trying to find more money, to help you get to events, those kind of things. I really think investing in that kind of stuff by the ACL would really help. It would be an investment on their part. And one of the things I think you were saying, Doug, is, you got the phone, you can have, and that's a little cheat sheet right there, even if you just have them in your notes file. But I know a lot, in different sports, it's something very simple. A lot of teams do. What they'll do, or players, they'll have it's a little card, almost like a, index size card. And it's like a picture of them, as a team that's fairly nicely printed, and not something you print at home, but it's something that looks fairly sharp. And then you flip it over and it's got their sponsors and maybe a blank spot, or, it's got all their sponsors on the back, and you have a message maybe from the team or the player. And then you could sign an autograph on
Yep.
that you could hand out, but it's something you could keep, players could keep in a bag or, in a backpack. Easy. There you go. Yeah. Exactly. Baseball card.
Baseball cards.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's essentially the idea. Is you're making your own, but it's a marketing card. You're giving something to hand away because you're putting
almost like trying to think if I used to have like a bunch of them right here, but the NASCAR hero cards that they hand out that are like the 8x10s.
Okay.
Right. That's a picture of the car and the driver on the one side. The other side is all the info on what they've done in their career.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Something
Al Castro said hero cards.
Yeah. I usually have like 8,000. Well, I got one here. A Window World. So I got
exactly.
Michael Waltz. I got an autograph, but it's still, and then it's got all that it gets the Window World sponsor.
That's exactly it.
Window World, if you want to sponsor the show, go right ahead. I'll put stuff on for you.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm talking
about. And this is the other thing I love about the show is we're starting to talk the Olympics and we kind of veer off in another direction, which is par for the course for me. But the other thing with promoting yourself is my biggest pet peeve is when people are looking for sponsors, they go to Facebook and put, if anyone wants to sponsor me. Those CEOs from those top companies are not your friends on Facebook.
I just put that post out last week.
Yeah, no.
that is
but
the other.
The CEO of that company that you're trying to get is your friend on Facebook, though.
That's the other thing that it drives me nuts too, Doug. It's just the same thing as the weekend recap tag sponsors done. It's not moving the needle. You're not doing anything. What you got to do is you got to go and sit down and make a PDF, put a big picture, put like a little bit of a deck together. That's got some of your social media metrics. It charts it out. Okay, here's the kind of reach that I've got on X platform. Here's the kind of reach I've got on this platform. Here's the way I can take your brand, come up with some different ideas, not just, I'll do 10 social media posts for the month and you'll get a spot on my jersey. No, think of some other creative things. Go sell yourself. You have got to sit down. You've got to hustle. And that's one thing that, some curling teams I used to work with, one team, I will not even utter who it is, was not a U.S. team. It was not a Canadian team, but they believed because they were so good, they didn't have to go sit down and in front of CEOs and hustle. They felt like sponsorship could come to them. And you know what? They got very little, if any, sponsorship. The only stuff they got was stuff they had that because they knew people for a long time, and that's all they had, and they never grew. But I had another team from the same country. They went down and they sat down. They made a marketing, almost not a marketing plan, but it was almost like a sales kind of book pitch, if you will. That was just several pages that they would take and they would go through these slides with companies, and they would sit down in a boardroom or in an office and go through and say, here's how I can help you. Can you help me? And they was going out proactively trying to find it.
Well, and that's the thing right now. Because
cut you off just for a second, Diane. Just to go back on Paul Vanendam, I said he's been playing a year. He started after Niagara at the Open this year in January.
Wow.
And then now he's going to play for Team Canada in Trier, Germany.
That's awesome.
Right?
That is so awesome.
Yeah, but that's the hard part, though. But he's in, right? He just got in, right? Yep. He's probably been playing for a couple of years, but now he's kind of moving into that limelight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Step into the light, Carol Ann. How do I make money now? Right? That's the hard part, right? You're playing a game that you love that started in the backyard.
Yeah.
And now you're coming into big boy money or big girl money. How do I monetize this? But monetize this in a way that it pays the bills, right? Because at first you're just trying to get to zero, right? How can I pay the bills where it's not costing me money to play the game?
Exactly. Break even.
Then after that, break even. And then after that, how do I make a little bit of money to help move forward, right? I've sent 3 letters to Winnebago. They won't call me back because I just want the RV to travel the country, right?
But that's the thing is you can't take no. You have to keep going back at them.
Listen, I will win. I will have a Winnebago that they give me for free. But
because the other big thing is I know just before COVID hit, I was talking with an ACL pro at the time, and we were trying to get a sponsor for him for a sportswear company. And I was talking with a rep that I knew up here. that kind of dealt with the NHL players for this company, and he said, talk to this person here. So we were sending them message, everything. They had no idea about cornhole still.
No, they don't. No. But by the way,
Right?
Steve Corona's in the chat. By the way, that's Steve Corona right there. Steve
Wow.
Corona. Look at him.
I agree with Steve Corona that Corn Doug is the man.
Well, we wanted to have Steve on the show, but he was a little busy a couple weeks ago.
He was a little busy a couple weeks ago. But like, so as a PR firm, like you're a PR firm, you're a radio host, and you've been so involved in helping a sport grow. What is it that you think the people can do right now to market themselves a little better inside cornhole, but also at the same time maybe help them gain some sponsorships? What would be that, just a one small little piece?
I mean, it's more of a general piece, but more suggestions is be proactive. You know, go out there and go after it. Whether it's, you know, you're trying to, you know, don't be, you know, I used to work for a boss that we used to have this policy, what was called, we did not do any kind of RSP, no relentless self-promoting. And, you know, my boss he just wasn't a me, I guy. He hated that stuff. And I get that, you know, he was in Congress. He wanted it to be about the people, not him. And so what I'm about to say kind of goes against what I've learned and what I've done, you know, many years, you know, working for him before I started this new gig with Bo. But, you know, be proactive, be a relentless self-promoter in a lot of ways. Go after it, because if you're not going after it, people aren't going after you. You are not going to be found just by random chance by sitting at the end of the bar or waiting for your, you know, oil change to be done at Quaker State. You got to go out there and find, whether it's sponsorship, media opportunities, chances to be visible, and fans, because it's all interconnected. And if you're just sitting back, you know, you got to practice, you got to prepare, you got to be ready to play. But when you're not doing that, time permitting, you know, getting on the phone maybe for an hour, you know, at 7:00 at night after dinner, or sending, you know, maybe a round of, you know, 7 or 8 emails to maybe some sponsors or local media, say, hey, I've got a big tournament coming up. I'd like to talk to you about cornhole. I can tell you a little bit about myself, my story, how I got into it, but here's a little bit about the game, how anybody that wants to play can win or, you know, get involved, especially if you got a local league. And just being proactive about that stuff. It's not going to happen if you're just sitting on your hands. You've got to go after it. And that's the way anybody that's been successful, you know, not everybody, but I'd say the majority of people, if you ask small business owners, because in a lot of ways that's what you are, especially if you're like a professional cornhole player, there's a lot of ways you're like a small business owner. You got to hustle. You got to go after it.
Well, plus don't go after the 5 or 6 cornhole companies. Like you're saying. No. Think outside the box, right? You really think about cornhole, you're thinking about like Yeti. You're thinking about some of these like Stanley, the stupid cup company, right? You got to think about all this other stuff that can go into the game and how you can help grow their business to break them into another market. You're not just going to go to the regular bag people or the regular board people, because they already sometimes have their people. Yeah. And you might get a contract for a year. You might get a contract for 6 months, right? Here's the thing. Yeah, don't be afraid of a no. Just go after something that you feel passionate about. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I love Arctic coolers. You know what I mean? And like, I like them better than the other company, but it's only because I use them. And that's a brand I can promote because it's something that I feel confident about.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, you know, those cornhole companies with bags, you know, they've got a certain piece of the pie that I can't speak for all of them, but I know a couple, you know, they basically have this set amount. This is what we're going to give out the sponsorship, and that pie that's divvied up. We're going to give out so many pieces. You got to go out and find those, you know, those other businesses. It might be a region. It might be something like Wingstop. You know what? Most cornhole players I know like D Wings. I hope that's not stereotyping. I love D Wings. Who doesn't? Yeah,
wing it.
Yeah, I mean, go knock on Boston Pizza's door. Go knock on. I mean, shoot. I mean, no Tim Hortons is too big, but even smaller things, you know,
Yep.
they're more.
Well, and that's the thing is that those big companies are probably not your ones to start out with.
because
Go
there's
with
so
the
much
small-
red tape to go through.
Yep.
Well, here's the hard part. When you start getting to bigger corporations like that, right? Like I know for me, I'm from Boston. So Dunkin's now, I call it Dunkin' Donuts because that's what I grew up with. I'm a little old.
Yeah.
But it's not Dunkin's. It's Dunkin' Donuts. But they're franchised and certain people own a certain area. Like there's one right around me. They have like 300 stores around me because they own most of New England. So I can go to them and get maybe a little bit of a Dunkin' sponsorship, but it's a local distributor. And when you look at beer, it's the same thing, right? Like Miller Lite, my favorite is beer in the whole wide world. It's local distributors. I'm not getting Miller Coors.
Yeah.
I might be getting the local beverage distributor around me.
Exactly. Like Chick-fil-A's down here are, you know, usually franchised, and you've got, you know, in a certain area, you've got an owner that probably might own 3 or 4 or 8, you know, like a Bojangles, you know, those are franchised out, but you still get that Bojangles or that Chick-fil-A name on there. It is easier to get it versus trying to go, you know, to Atlanta, the corporate headquarters of Chick-fil-A. If I go to, you know, strike up a relationship with the guy that's that franchisee that owns the 8 in the greater upstate of South Carolina, you're going to have far better chance with that guy than you are trying to go to Atlanta and meet with the, you know, the head dudes in marketing.
But if I get sponsored by Chick-fil-A, can I play on Sunday?
I know for me, all I'm thinking now is I'm wanting a chicken fried steak breakfast sandwich. That's all I'm wanting now.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Bojangles.
But that's the big thing, right? When you really start looking at, you know, I'm not saying start small, but start attainable. Something
Realistic.
Realistic and attainable, right? You know, when you start talking SMART goals, I come from the corporate world, so you know.
Well, and the thing is, and Paul, I also said in the chat as well too, is especially for us up here in Canada still, because we're still so new. When we go look for sponsors, we kind of get laughed at until he said, okay, well, yeah, you can laugh at me for this cornhole fundraiser, but he's also going to be going down to Rock Hill to play in the Canada US thing on ESPN. You sponsor me, it gets on a jersey or whatever, you're going to be seen on ESPN.
Well, but
right, and then there's kind of like a different tune, right?
And another thing we say in politics, you know, is, you know, a lot of times when you're trying to make the sale and trying to, you know, take this idea, you know, one of the quick questions that you always get, all right, who you got with you? You know, who's supporting you? So when you can, well, if you're trying to sit in front of the big dog and you really don't have a lot to trot out, you know, you'd rather at least, you know, get a couple singles, get on base, you know, a double doesn't hurt here and there. You don't have to try and go hit that home run right out of the box. Try and get the bases loaded. So you have when they ask who all you got with you, you know, what kind of sponsorship do you have right now? You can reel off a couple companies, and whether they're small, big, that's going to help you because they're going to say, oh man, there's obviously value. Some other people see value in what I'm trying, you know, what he's trying or she's trying to sell me. So.
Well, listen, I call it the Rogan effect. Joe Rogan got his job in the UFC by Dana White just watching some of his tapes. And he wasn't even trying to be a UFC announcer.
Yeah.
He was just talking about the UFC, right? He was just on talk shows and other stuff talking about the UFC. Dana White saw it and said, we got to get this guy.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're just talking about a different brand and, you know, I wouldn't necessarily say hounding him because that's what I do, but at least mentioning that brand.
Yeah.
You know, you may have a little bit more of a shot at, you know, getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Because that's the hardest part sometimes with getting a sponsor is getting your foot in the door.
Yeah. And let me just say too, real quick, guys, I should have said this disclaimer out of the gate. I'm not trying to bash the ACL saying they should do this or they haven't done this. I don't know the intricacies of what they're doing. I'm not clearly in those Rock Hill headquarters. I just, you know, I'm optically what I'm seeing, you know, what I would do, you know, if I had my hands on the product. That's simply all I'm trying to say is not trying to throw shots at, okay, you know, armchair quarterback. So
listen, we're not throwing shots at Stacy, Trey, any of those people. We're here for players to help players. That's what we're here to do.
And from what I've seen from talking to some of the people with doing the live feed stuff and kind of seeing some behind the scenes stuff is that is starting to form in behind there to try and see where we want to go and, you know, to kind of hit that right direction.
Yeah.
But to me, that's not on the ACL though, really, for me, right? The ACL shouldn't be going out and finding Price and Doug sponsors, right? They may have
Oh, no.
something to throw out there.
No, but even for like just the media training, because like that's what the NFL and the NBA. Well, the NFL and the NBA do that for their rookies. They do have a rookie seminar thing that they all have to go to.
Camp for that, but also their agents are also very heavily involved in that.
Yeah.
Right. It's that person that you're giving a small percentage to, maybe 10% or so, but they help you with that, and they're the ones that are really lining up the Good Morning America and all the other stuff. You're not relying on the NFL to send you there. They might to some things, but it's really your agent that's going out there and kind of beating that path for you. But like, hey, you want to talk to Donnie because I can get him in New York next week to throw across the stage or whatever.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, 100%. I know before we get out of here, I got to ask you guys. You got two U.S., Canada. Olympics is kind of where we started. It literally, speaking of started, just started today. Yeah. Who's going to win the gold medal in basketball? Is it going to be Canada pulling the upset, or is it going to be Team USA? Because I think that is the Titanic matchup that we're headed for.
Well, I know. Well, Canada played Greece tonight. I know that. I didn't see how that ended up, but I think Canada let them off a little easy the first time.
Okay.
I think Canada could kind of become like the South Sudan and give the U.S. a little bit of scare and maybe even hit that final shot.
I do too. I think.
Okay, so Scott says Canada did beat Germany. I'm sorry, not Germany, Greece. So, Giannis went down.
I think after that game, every one of those pros got their ass kicked and was told that we got to step it up.
Yeah.
So put LeBron on the bench and we'll win.
Well, but Don, they didn't step it up because after they barely beat South Sudan, then they were in a dogfight against Germany, and now know it's exhibition. We'll find out tomorrow when Team USA really takes the floor. But
when they get into elimination bracket, I think we're going to see a much different team.
I have a big heart with Team Canada though, with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Jamal Murray, a couple Kentucky guys that I love.
Well,
to death.
Jamal Murray, from right down the street from my house here.
Yeah, is he Waterloo?
He's a Kitchener guy. I'm right on, and I live right on the border of Kitchener and Waterloo. So
Kitchener's had a lot of talent.
One more question before we I just need to understand how a guy from Greenville that went to Kentucky, played curling. How did that happen? Explain that to me.
Well, I get asked that quite often, and it's kind of. It goes back kind of how we started our conversation a little bit. I started watching it on television, when the 2006 games in Torino, the Winter Olympics, I started watching it, was fascinated. And so you would only get it on television basically every 4 years. Well, then it started to grow and you started having Curling Night in America and these other things. And, I honestly reached out to them, kind of indirectly, saying I'd love to get involved. I still honestly don't play curling because I don't have the time. I got 2 young kids and a lot of other things involved with, and got involved kind of at the national level, working their national championships, and then would work their national championships every year. Then got asked to be the in-venue announcer for national championships, and did it for the Olympic trials. Then I asked one of the curling teams, hey, you guys wanted to go to the Olympics, kind of do your social media. So this kind of goes back to the hustling thing. I went out there and tried to find my avenue because I wanted to help the sport. I wanted to help the athletes, the coaches. I wanted the profile of the entire sport to grow. And so I just went out and tried to find a way that I could find a niche in that could help play a role in, advance the game, add to the game, add to the sport, try and raise the profile of these players and these teams, and, giving them data from our social media profiles. We're not rerunning their social media stuff and show them, hey, at the end of the season, here's the kind of audience we've got. Take these to sponsors and show them. So that is, make a real long story short, that's how I got involved, and just trying to find a way. And I didn't sit and kind of wait. I tried to kind of find that avenue.
So you made your way.
I did. It was a lot of fun, and it is the most wonderful community of authentic people that I have been around, whether it's in Canada, whether it's, here in the States, in Europe. curling
Really?
community is just an amazing group of people.
Even in Canada?
Even
Well, you know what, Price? I think yourself and Donnie will have to come up to the Open that we have in St. John's, Newfoundland, because it is at the Remax Center where Brad Gushue got his start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been in the Remax Center. I've stayed at the golly, what's the Hyatt? It's right next to the Remax. I've stayed there twice because Newfoundland, St. John's, there's nothing like the Rock. It is. I love Saskatchewan. So when it comes to Canada, I love Saskatchewan. The people it's so laid back. The people are so friendly. I've become a huge, Saskatchewan Rough Rider fan. But there's Atlantic Canada, the Maritimes. It's just a special place, and obviously Newfoundland is almost a different place entirely. But St. John's and Conception Bay South and everywhere around there, it's just awesome. I would do anything to go back to St. John's.
So, as a Rider fan, do you wear the watermelon? The watermelon hat. Do you put on the watermelon hat?
Doug, I gotta decide with my guy right here. No. No, I do not. But I do wear green, and I hate the color green, but I put it on because I like the Riders.
Well, we won't hold that against you, but
all right.
But yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. I know we were going to talk Olympics, but then we kind of veered off the other side, and we kind of came back. But that's just how we roll around here. But we got to have you come back on again, and we'll talk some more.
The good news is the Olympics last for 16 days, and so this is only one day. But there's also next week, so we can do it again next week or the week after. Anytime you want to talk about Olympics, I will sign up for that convo.
Wait a minute. What do you think about the whole boat thing? I like the whole, like, everybody walking around. I didn't like the boat thing.
I thought it was awesome. And I think that, again, it's outside of the box. It's something we hadn't seen. I think there are only, how many other places could you pull something like that off? Now, there were some other things I may not have cared for regarding the opening ceremony, but I thought by and large it was different. It was neat. There were some of the other things I was like, okay, I can do without the fashion show in the middle. But you're also using that as an opportunity, as a sales pitch for your country. I get that kind of stuff, but by and large, I liked it. I thought it was different. I thought it was neat. So,
all right, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to
you. Here you go, Donnie. As Derek says, and Price knows how to say Newfoundland.
What? No, it's Newfoundland.
Well,
now I do it on purpose.
It is. I just can't say enough good things about St. John's, and I mean, of course, George Street is unlike. I mean, it's
there's some videos floating around like that I don't remember, but
I can tell you,
Derek in the chat, I think, should be like the ambassador for like coming there, because he, like, every minute he's telling me to come.
Well, if I didn't have it at my fingertips before we started podcasting, I should have thought more about this in advance. But I have been screeched in, Doug. So I even have the certificate that I've been screeched in. So you can. I'm sure your viewers maybe know a little bit about what that is. You can explain it maybe on another episode if they don't. But it was a night I won't forget.
You can get screeched in again. That's I do it every time just for a drink and a piece of bologna. That's all I do it for.
Well, the end part is also pretty fun too, because you get a kiss. So,
well, sometimes you get a kiss. Sometimes you got to lick it from one end to the other. It depends on who's doing it. But it's.
So tell me again when the event at the Remax Center is. Is that coming up?
It has not been announced yet.
It's not been announced yet. It's coming up.
Okay.
But that will be announced very soon. But again, thanks for coming on, Donnie. Thanks for coming back from there and
from vacation.
Hopefully that other half of toe grows back.
Well, listen, here's the thing. Next year, I already told my wife she has to get back to work, because next year's trip is in another horrible place.
Uh-oh.
Next year's trip is back to my home country in Dublin, Ireland. So she better win the trip.
Ooh. Very nice.
Or maybe you can go there to play cornhole.
Maybe, yeah. Do they have cornhole there?
You can wear your leprechaun suit that you wore in Cleveland.
You throw bags into a pot of gold. I mean,
Donnie, expand the game, brother. Expand the game.
You got to grow the game.
Oh,
grow the game.
Say that.
plant that seed.
I'm going to get a backpack to bring boards with me.
There you go.
For sure.
That's it.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you guys I thank everyone for watching, and we will be back next week. Hopefully, I'll be able to get to play some games with Jamie Cowan this week. Go live because I've only got a couple days left before the end of the month, where I've still got to get that one win against him. But
yeah, that's cute.
See everyone later, and we'll talk next week.
Thanks, guys.